Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Give folks a bit of time to settle in. We want to thank you guys for joining today's Climate Resilient Schools Coalition Network meeting. We have a great meeting lined up for today with our youth cohort members presenting. Just want to introduce myself. My name is Uzoma Adichie. You can call me Zuzu. My pronouns are she, they. I am a climate education fellow with Mass Audubon. I've been helping to run the coalition as well as our youth cohort. And I will pass it to Jennifer.
I'm Jennifer Feller, and I'm the Director of School Programs and Youth Climate Programs for Mass Audubon. And I have also been helping to facilitate the Climate Resilient Schools cohort for 2 years. Pass it to Sarah Karp.
Hey everyone, I'm Sarah. I am a senior at Acton Boxborough Regional High School, and I am also one of the co-leads on the coalition and on the youth cohort along with Zuzu. And I will pass it to the other fabulous Sarah.
Hi, other fabulous Sarah. Hi, the rest of you. My name is Sarah Ross, and I'm a co-founder of a national nonprofit, Undaunted K-12, and have been thrilled to be working with this lovely group on this Massachusetts-based coalition. And maybe I should pass it over to Brittany. Brittany, you want to say hi too?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm the Climate Education Program Manager for Mass Audubon, and I love to come to these meetings and be supportive.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining today. If folks want to introduce themselves in the chat with your name, pronouns, and district, that'd be great. We have a great agenda for today. We're going to sort of go over who we are, our group norms, a couple of upcoming events / updates, and then our long-awaited youth cohort presentations. So, if you're new here or a returner, the Climate Resilient Schools Coalition brings together students, educators, school staff, and other community members to advocate for meaningful, date-certain commitments to climate education and climate resilience in Massachusetts school districts, ensuring that students and communities can thrive in the face of climate change. Our group norms for the meeting are that folks participate with respect, humility, and grace for others. Try to have your video cameras on and your microphones muted. Share airtime, and this call will be recorded so that participants can share with their communities. And I'm also going to go ahead and paste our meeting notes into the chat if folks want to follow along. And I will pass it over to Jennifer.
All right. It is amazing to see you all here. It's great to see so many folks. So we're going to just fly through some updates and announcements. And if you have one, feel free to put your hand up and add at the end. But we're just moving fast, so we leave plenty of time for youth presentations. We want to start. Sarah, I'm going to hand it over to Sarah Ross to start us off.
Yeah, so hopefully some of you in this group know that our wonderful Massachusetts A Clean Energy Center, the Mass CEC, recently had a grant opportunity for certain communities in Massachusetts, those serving a high proportion of low-income households. They were able to apply for what are called Green School Works grants. These were grants for planning, grants for implementation. And so if your community applied for one of these grants, put it in the chat. We'd love to know who applied or if you had conversations with your superintendent or school board about this grant opportunity and they were hesitant to apply, we want to hear about that too. So put it in the chat if you had any kind of conversation or interaction with Green School Works in your community. And I will pass it over to, it looks like, did I see Betsy on here? I feel like I saw Betsy on here. Betsy, can you talk to us about your update on the BTU contract?
Oh, sure. The contract between the Boston Teachers Union and Boston Public Schools was just actually the final step was this week when the city council voted on it on Wednesday. And so it establishes a joint labor management team to figure out how to infuse the K-12 curriculum in Boston with interdisciplinary climate justice curriculum work, lessons, etc. So it's a step. It's a step modeled somewhat on Somerville's similar work. So we hope to just jump right on where they're at and take it further. So
which is really fantastic. So just everyone, woo, good job. That was a pretty big win. And I actually am working with the Somerville schools to try to, now we're 2 years in and going, oh, it's a
yeah,
lot of work,
yeah.
but it's really exciting work. So thrilled that Boston has also done that. Okay, many of you are hopefully aware that uh, MCAS is no longer a graduation requirement, as there was a referendum about that. And so the Healy administration has appointed a graduation requirements council to try to figure out, okay, if that's not the graduation requirement, then what is? And so there are listening sessions happening around the state now, and we are trying to mobilize folks to go and suggest that climate literacy should be required for everyone in Massachusetts, for all students in Massachusetts as a graduation requirement in some format. That could look in many different ways. But we'd like folks to speak up for climate. So I think that maybe one of my colleagues is dropping that link in the chat. It's also in our agenda with the upcoming dates and where those listening sessions are. And there's also a virtual session if you don't have one near you. And we would love to see folks there. Okay, and then we have, let's see, Gretchen, are you here? Do you want to just tell us quickly about the Youth Can Summit?
Sure. So the Youth Can Summit is an annual summit. It's the 19th year we've done it, and it's on climate change and sustainability. This year we're focusing on methods of carbon offsetting. We have a keynote speaker there every year, a bunch of workshops, tables. So a bunch of people all from Massachusetts, etc. And each year we have maybe 300 to 400 students from the greater Boston area usually attend. It's a really fun activity. Sorry, it's a really fun event, and it's really a good thing for climate education. We love doing it every year.
Awesome, thank you.
And it's on May 24th.
There you go, May 24th in Boston, and the registration link is also in the agenda under 2D. And then lastly, let's see, Brittany, do you want to just do a quick shout out for volunteers for Envirothon?
Yes, please. So the Massachusetts Envirothon competition is this next Thursday. So it's May 22nd, and it's a fun all-day thing this year at Borderlands State Park. It is a natural resources competition for high school students, and they always have a current issue presentation, and this year is all about forest stewardship in a changing climate. We are looking for judges and for people to help teams know where to go and where to be. And it's just a really fun day. Jennifer can tell you, she's done it before. Probably a couple of you on the call have done it too. And so if you have the day free and like to come spend it with a bunch of youth who are really excited about natural resources and forests, please sign up. I'll put the link in the chat.
Fantastic. Anyone else have a quick update? Sarah Ross? Oh, yes, sorry.
Can I invite Rylan? Thank you so much for offering, and it's so exciting that Salem is applying for the maximum grant through Green School Works. Could I invite you to come off mute for a few seconds and just say what you're applying for? And thank you for jumping in.
Yeah, sure. I believe it might be for revamping like the energy systems of Salt and Stall, but I know like it's mainly because our district is pretty like overwhelmed with the construction of like the new school. I'll kind of get into that in the presentation too. But we're building like a new net zero school, so definitely taking some resources there.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And was that the only one? Okay. All right. All right. Well, I'm thrilled to hand it over. Let's see. Zuzu, are you introducing this and how this will work, or is that Sarah Karp? I'll hand it to whoever is taking it from
I
here.
got it. Thank
Okay.
you. So yes, next we're really excited to move into two breakout rooms and hear from some folks in our youth cohort. So this is a group of high school students from districts across the state who have been working on various kind of local policy style resolutions and actions in their school districts since October. I will not say a ton more than that because I don't want to take their content from them. But today we have Revere, Greenfield, Salem, and Boston with us. We have two more Lowell and Springfield folks who could not make it today. For anyone that is working in schools or in schools right now, you know that May is a really crazy month and that it is the first week of APs and spring concerts and whatnot. And so we appreciate your patience with us on that front. But if you are somebody who has kind of connections to either of those districts and is interested in learning more specifically about that work, we're happy to connect you with those folks so that you can kind of hear their presentations on this and the work they've been doing. I don't know, Zuzu, if we're ready to go here. But
Yeah, I thought it would be great to have just our youth cohort, just in general, introduce themselves to the whole group. And then we will have breakout rooms for folks to go into based on the district. So I do want to pass it first to Stella. If you'd like to introduce yourself with name, pronouns, district.
Hi, everybody. My name is Stella Verlander. I'm from the Greenfield district, which is in Western Mass, if you don't know. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm also a senior in high school right now.
Thank you, Stella. I'll pass it to Gretchen.
Hello, I'm Gretchen. I'm in the Boston cohort, she, her, and I'm also a senior in high school.
Thank you, Gretchen. I'm going to pass it to Rylan.
Hi, I'm Rylan. I'm from the Salem cohort and I'm a junior.
Ryan?
Hello, my name is Brian, and I am a junior in high school, and I'm also a part of the Springfield team.
Awesome. Kira, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Kira, she, her. I'm from the Salem cohort and I'm a junior.
Awesome. And then Enzo, you're here and want to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Enzo. I'm part of the Revere group and I'm a senior in high school.
I think that's everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and create breakout rooms. There will be one for Revere and Greenfield, and then another for Boston and Salem. And we do have one student from Springfield who can sort of give a little summary as to what they've been working on, but presentations from our other groups. So go ahead and open those rooms now. Folks are welcome to join any breakout room they'd like.
Does everyone know how to join a breakout room?
I'm not seeing it.
Maybe you can tell people how to do that.
Yes, I can assign you to a breakout room.
Okay.
We have
Well, you can, if you don't know, you just go, you hit the little breakout on the bottom. There's a breakout rooms. It's 4 squares. There's a little icon that should have 4 squares on it. And you just click that. And then you can either join room 1 or room 2, and you just press the join. And if not, you can unmute and tell Zuzu where you'd like to be, and Zuzu will put you in a room. Either way works. Let's see. Dina, where would you like to be? Because I see from your face. Because I get that face a lot. Oh, and you're on mute, though, so you do have to come off mute to tell us. Let's see, I'll get you off mute.
Jennifer, I'm gonna make you a co-host. So
Okay.
Okay,
That's
I just usually I have
hi everyone. Sorry for the hold up. Yeah, I'm excited to have our teams present. Um, our Boston team will be going first. Gretchen, you should be able to share your screen. Let me know if that's not an option for you.
Could you share the slides? I'm just having technical.
Yes, I can. Give me 1 second. To click and such. I'm gonna share my screen for you. Can everyone see my screen? Awesome. Take
Yep.
it.
So yeah, I'm Gretchen. Vin's also working with me. I think his exam probably didn't finish, but he had an exam that should have ended 30 minutes ago, but I don't think it did. And we're the Boston team. So some of the big things we wanted to work on in our resolution were climate change, zero waste, green pathways, and building emissions. And we're going to mainly be focusing on the first two. So first, for climate education, some existing footholds that we looked into, the current BPS curriculum, which the only really climate structure in it is the 8th grade civics project, which you're not required to do anything climate related. It's just very broad. And then for other kind of interdisciplinary education for climate change, there's not really any requirements, but there's a bill in the works we're looking at, which is really cool. And we really want to focus on like integrating climate into all classes as well. And so obviously, the MCAS is no longer required as part of Mass Core. So there's a lot of openings for what requirements are. Me and Vin are going to go to one of the listening sessions next week. So that's really exciting. And then we also talked with Green Team, who has a bunch of helpful resources about like climate education and like lessons, for example. So some of the key points we're putting into our resolution for this part, integrating climate education into all courses, not just like a science curriculum, a task force, which would oversee stuff like professional development, and just making sure that we reach our goals for climate education requirements, having a required environmental course as part of the high school curriculum, more options for stuff like green jobs training. We talked with some people at the Madison Park team. And lastly, a form of environmental education as a graduation requirement, not specifically just a class. And then for zero waste, so there's already a zero waste policy, but it's primarily just focusing on recycling. So one thing we wanted to do was have some similar language because recycling is in all BPS schools, however effective it might be. And we also wanted to make sure we're focusing on composting being implemented very effectively in all schools, just because we did see some of those gaps in recycling. There's a zero waste pilot currently with the zero waste program. My school's in it. There's only 6 schools with front and back of the house composting right now, though, even though it started like 2-3 years ago, and they were like, we're going to expand it each year. And yet it's only 6 schools currently out of 118 BPS schools, but there are 33 schools that have back of house composting. Some of the like difficulties for this was requirements to join the pilot and just prioritization of the worst schools, basically the most waste And then there's also kind of a lack of communication just because it's a smaller team and it's very new. Mass DEP we're looking into has a lot of different resources and grants, but not many schools really apply for them because the faculty and administration don't really know about them or care about them. And Green Team, again, have a lot of stuff like bins, signs, money to help people get started at schools, but obviously administrators don't really look for it. And we talked with a lot of people like Catherine Walsh, who is the the zero waste lead, and Green Team, and some people from BPS. So I'm going to show part of our resolution after, but some key points were just to expand the zero waste team that's already in place and the compost pilot program, have the task force help schools meet the requirements and get resources. So actively going out to schools, actively trying to help schools, and have a minimum number of schools to be added to the program each year so that it's not just laying at 6. And then have systems set up in the schools to ensure that it's more long-lasting teams. So this means going to the administration, having teams set up, teachers, and not just having it be like a high schoolers running the entire thing. And so this might be a little small, but this is part of the resolution we're working on. This is part of the draft for our resolved clauses. So as you can see, it has a lot of the stuff I just talked about in detail, mentioning the existing zero waste policy, etc. I don't know if we want to keep this up to read or just probably leave it up during questions. Good.
Thank y'all. Gretchen, thank you for an amazing presentation. I'm just leaving this up for folks to sort of read through. This is in the works. I've been working with the Boston team on this. And we're wondering if folks have any questions, comments, concerns to ask me and Gretchen. Ben can't be here with us, but we're here. Yes, Sarah Ross.
Thanks for this. This is great work and great thinking, and glad you guys are engaged on these two topics of education and waste. I wonder if there were any kind of models from school districts that you saw in other places of the country around zero waste that you could learn from. I know nothing about zero waste policy, so I'm a complete learner when it comes to this stuff. But I just wonder, are there ones out there that other schools have adopted that you were like, man, I wish we had that at BPS?
Yeah, I mean, we were very early on looking at policies from like resolutions from other school districts. I don't think we looked at a specific like zero waste structure, but since we already have the pilot program, I work really closely with that since I run it at my own school. We kind of based it off of that because that is working at the schools it's at. It's just more of a problem of expansion, considering, it started in the 2022-23 school year and it has not grown since. So
To add on to what Gretchen said, I think the zero waste policy has been enacted since 2018, and the composting sort of expansion was started in 2022. But yeah, this policy has been around. It's just a matter of getting it updated and also understanding who to sort of talk to get those updates and make sure that the policy is being enforced and that schools know about it. Because for the most part, students are running it. Gretchen, I don't know if you want to share a bit about your experience helping run composting and recycling at your school, but it is mostly student run. So yeah.
yeah, I mean, adding on to that, I mean, I'd like to highlight that our resolution is a little different in that it's more of an update a lot of our clauses are just referencing other stuff like the zero waste policy and a few others for climate education, and really just adding amendments to it, adding on stuff, saying, hey, can we take what we did with recycling and expand on it to composting instead of just having a bunch of clauses that say you could compost, you could do textile recycling. Because right now that policy was like must recycle, must recycle, must recycle. And then everything after that was just up to the school. But yeah, as Zuzu said, I run my school's program. It's definitely successful at the school. However, it's stuff like I'm a senior and there's not really a team there beyond just student volunteers. So it is kind of hard to keep it going longer term, especially since not as many the administration are on board with it, but not really involved with it.
Any other questions or comments for Gretchen?
Hi, my name is Rochelle Masters. I live in Sherburne. It's the Dover Sherburne Regional School District. And I don't know if the question is for Gretchen, perhaps, but maybe others can chime in as well. The question is, the high school, as I understand, is not a resilient school. I think the nearest one is Natick. The Natick High School is. And I have reached out to the superintendent, and there is some interest in, trying to see if we can get the district, interested in this sort of thing. And I wanted to know what is a good place to start to engage the district via the superintendent. Like, do I point them to the green team? Do I point them to, like, what would I point them to in order to start the process? And I have a child in the school district that will be going at some point to the high school and all that. So I am vested in different regards.
I can try to answer that a little bit, and then folks want to chime in, they can. I would say we were lucky in the case of Boston that there was already a zero waste policy sort of out there. Again, not super being enforced, so that's why we had to kind of re-up it. But I would maybe even prompt them to that and show them, hey, like other districts are sort of taking on this responsibility. Here are some of the suggestions that they've made for their teams or for their schools. We also got advice from Green Team that it's best to sort of reach out to faculty and administrators when it comes to implementing recycling and composting and other zero waste measures on a school by school basis, because that gets them aware. But definitely also reaching out to the superintendent and seeing if your district has any sort of rewards programs or grants that would make it easier to get recycling and composting materials. Mass DEP is great to look into. I believe they have some grants and give points based on how much your municipality is recycling, composting, doing other zero waste things. So looking into that statewide sort of programs as well.
Mhm.
Anyone else wants to share?
Thank you.
Maldi, I see your question. I'm going to read out loud. I'm from the Lawrence District, and my school, Abbott Lawrence Academy, is moving buildings. What are some ways that I can get recycling and composting and anything else that can help my school be better? I would sort of give the same advice, and also because your school is moving buildings, I think that might be sort of an interesting opening to see if there's sort of a facilities or maintenance team that is responsible for handling waste at your schools. Sometimes it's the district that does it, and other times it's more of the state or the city. So getting that information and seeing who is responsible at my school for picking up the trash and what other organizations exist that can help provide composting materials. I know for BPS, it's Black Earth Compost. They provide composting materials to some of the schools. which I think BLS specifically, but not to all, as they only have capacity for a few. So looking into what local organizations can offer that, and again, teachers, administration, and faculty that you can talk to in terms of getting a sort of policy or at least a set of recommendations off the ground. And I do think that in this case, a pilot program or a suggestion to establish a pilot program could be helpful if it's not already in place. So, yeah. Any other questions? Thank you, Uli, for joining. Bye.
I think one thing, I mean, Boston does have a city-run composting program that, picks it up on trash day. So I don't know why we're using Black Earth and not what the city already has, number one. And number two, you know, having been a school leader in Boston, it's all about who's doing the work, and it's adding one more, could be a significant amount of time. Gretchen, you would probably know better, what the time requirement is to, you know, BLS particularly. It's a huge school. But, who's going to do the work? So it's something that, should actually be perhaps raised with custodians, and I'm sure it's not in their contract at present time. So in terms of, expanding on that in their contract, in subsequent years, the city should be looking to do that if they're really serious about it, because you can't, I mean, it's great that the students are willing to do it, but, your point is well taken that you can't really, that might work some years and other years maybe less so. And you're gonna put it on the cafeteria workers, you're gonna have the teachers who come, in an elementary school to pick up the kids from lunch to, make sure the composting is being collected. So, you really need a designated staff to do it. Um, so it's just some thoughts.
Yeah, one of our main struggles, especially with having students running it, is just it depends school to school, obviously, but especially at BLX, we have really short lunch periods. So it's really difficult to run the bins without a bunch of people there each day. Which also raises the issue for faculty because they don't get much longer of a lunch break than us, I don't think.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. I think that's an issue for a lot of school districts that are trying to implement these recycling and composting measures, is that the custodians don't know that it's happening. I think that was sort of a case that happened in Springfield when they first started composting and implementing compostable trays. It's a matter of getting the language into the contract for sure. So thank you for that suggestion, Betsy. Also, Vin, if your AP exam is finished, I see you're here. If you want to introduce yourself, and then we can have a little bit more time for questions and move on to Salem.
Hi everyone, my name is Vin, and I'm part of the Boston team. I just finished my APUR exam, so I was not able to join in fast enough to help alongside with Gretchen presented our presentation. But if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask me.
Thank you, Vin. Yeah, and it's been working mostly on the climate education aspect. I know Gretchen sort of mentioned this interdisciplinary climate literacy bill that is in the works and hopefully will be passed. And that would establish a sort of council that would assist with funding for climate education implementation and would also create climate literacy plans for each district. So that's just a little bit of insight. Yes, Sarah.
Yeah, hi Ben, nice to see you. Congratulations on getting your exam done. Oh, it looks like maybe he's getting distracted and pulled in other directions. I was just gonna ask him a question. Ben, I was just gonna ask you about climate change education and what kind of who's your counterpart when you're kind of trying to get feedback in the district on how that might get implemented? Who are you talking with? Who are you getting feedback from in the district as you try and find your way there on how to advance climate change education in BPS?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Who is your cat? Like, who do you talk with within the district in terms of administrators? Like, who's your conversation partner to try to understand how you all might advance climate change education within BPS? Is there
Yeah,
an
so
administrator you're talking with, or who is it?
we have talked to administration within BPS, such as like our own teacher at BLS, Mr. Fogel, and we have also contact to with um teachers at the Madison Park, and also the BTU people with Betsy here, and that's how we have getting like in contact to understand more of the climate education within the district.
Also, we got the chance to kind of talk to Cassandra Gonzalez from DESI. Here's how we learned about this opening for the graduation requirement. We have the talking sessions coming up, and the Boston team will also be attending public comment on the school board meetings next week. So they'll sort of share a little bit about what they've been working on with the school board. We have time for one more question, and then we'll move on to Salem, or just move on to Salem. Okay, great. I'm gonna stop sharing. Rylan, if you want to share your screen.
Is there any chance you could share it from your end? I could also try to share it from mine, but it might be easier.
Yeah, if you want to drop it in the chat and make sure I'm sharing permissions.
Yeah, I could do that.
And thank you again, Gretchen and Ben, for a great presentation. And thank y'all for great questions as well.
All right, it should be in the chat.
Awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Second. Okay. Let's take it away, Rylan.
You can probably skip to the About Us slide too, if. So my name is Rylan, and I'm a junior at Salem High School. And I'm pretty involved in like the environmental curriculum at our school and also with the environmental club. You want to introduce yourself, Kira?
Hi, I'm Kira. I'm also a junior at Salem High, and I'm interested in art and social studies, and I'm also involved in like some of the community engagement. So to start off, Salem High is a Title I school, which from the bat kind of puts us in a bit of a different situation and context than some of the other schools in the coalition, like Boston, just because we are lower income. Um, and furthermore, a large chunk of the Salem public school community lives in the Point, which is an environmental justice community, which essentially just means they're more at risk for climate change, especially with rising sea levels and the heat island effect. Um, Currently, so the Salem High School building is very outdated, especially our heating system, which is not renewable and it's really pricey to run. It also doesn't work that well. And we only have like two environmental or ecology classes, and the middle schools have essentially no climate education. Um, and this has led Salem to this decision to build a new high school, which is kind of the big focus of the town right now. And this goes along with this net zero emissions goal by 2050 that we formed with Beverly as part of this climate pact. Beverly's a neighboring town. Personally, I was in our superintendent's student advisory group for the past 2 years, and that's where some of the conversation about the new building started with the students. And it brought us to this realization that there really isn't a lot of student voice in this, especially in the climate field. Like a lot of the things we were being asked in the student advisory group were like faculties that we could be removing because our budget is so tight, um, which has kind of led us to this decision to focus on um, some of the choices in the new school. Ellen wants to talk about.
Yeah, sure. We decided that like our focus should be placed on the educational programs and how we can encourage them through working on the new building construction. That what helped us to make our decision was that like Kira said, Sam was very focused on the construction. So it's really where we could best leverage our impact. Also just the ability to leave our legacy on like Salem High School and its future. It's really important, especially like Kira said, with our 2050 net zero goal. If we don't start constructing new schools that are net zero, then we will never actually meet that goal. Um, and then for risk too, like Kira talked about, environmental curriculum is really important since Salem was in the forefront of climate change. So our goals were to connect, influence, and maintain. I had to work my way up the chain of command, so I could eventually influence like the sustainable design of the new school. I originally started with the superintendent, and then he eventually got me into the building committee, and then I got appointed by the mayor. So I was really working my way up. And then once I joined the building committee, I wanted to be able to represent like the youth voices for environmental curriculum. And I also wanted to be able to like weigh in on the sustainable design. But one of the worries that Kira might want to talk about is like maintaining.
Yeah. So currently, most of the building committee, if you go to the next slide, thank you. A lot of the building committee has kind of verbally committed to this sustainability in the new school that it will be net zero and will be upholding these ideas that Ryan's bringing up for the most part, but there's no written clause. And the majority of Salem's funding is based right now on a tax raise, which hasn't even been voted on yet. And it's the first time that Salem's ever had something like that. So it brings up this question for us that we'd like to open out to you guys, or um, since it's a bit more of a unique situation, if it would be helpful to have a written clause in the building committee that all of these more sustainable choices would be upheld in the construction of the new building, regardless of any changes in funding. Because if that tax raise fell through, we would be working on a much smaller budget, and that's when the school would be looking to cut things. Um, but there is that double thing where it's a very sustainably based group. Like there's nobody in the building committee that's gunning against what we're asking for.
So to advance this, we had to make many connections. So like I mentioned, I originally reached out to our superintendent, Dr. Zreich, about joining the student advisory group. That was the group that Kira mentioned in the beginning. I recently joined that. And then also he invited me to attend a meeting in the building committee. So I went to the first meeting. It was really interesting. That first meeting was about the budgeting for the event. And then after the second meeting, I got approved by the mayor to be like the only student member of the building committee, which is really exciting. I've also met with another member of the building committee, the head of Salem Sustainability Office, Neil Duffy. He's been really helpful. We've met multiple times to discuss Salem's climate action and how we can really engage on the education side and encouraging the environmental education. I've also talked to the architect. I've discussed like materials sustainability with them, and we've also given them some student feedback. And actually, I think I'm gonna tour the farm in the next like upcoming week or so, so I'm really excited for that. So for our timeline, in February was when I was invited to attend. In March was when I was approved by mayor to vote. In March, I also met with the CTE director, Mario Souza, and he invited me to be a part of the CTE group, which is planning the Sustainable Construction Lab. Some more context for Salem High is that we're a very career technical education focused school. So we're trying to find ways to integrate the career technical education with the sustainable education and environmental education. Um, And then in March, I presented at the building committee's sustainability workshop. Um, in April, there was another building committee meeting where I talked about having monitors placed on the renewable energy sources so that we could use those the readings from those and kind of experimentation for the environmental education and for the sustainable construction lab because I think it'd be really like valuable for environmental students to be able to actually work with these systems that we're learning about. And then in April, recently, this is a bit more of project based, but I began a project for engaging students in like a native restoration of the outdoor classroom. And that's going to set up an experiment that's going to be continued throughout our environmental classroom throughout like the upcoming years and hopefully into the new building. So for some skills gained for us, networking, we talked about making many connections. That was a really useful skill, and I'm definitely still gonna use many of these connections throughout this project and through other projects that I've gotten involved in. Designing. We don't really know a lot about the design of a new school building and kind of like what goes into that. There's a lot of like hidden details, especially thinking about the site management versus just the building. Um, and then for inspiration, I think this process has really inspired me to like pursue environmental engineering or like civil engineering. So I think that's definitely fun. And yeah, I think like communication too is a pretty big skill. Since we have to communicate back and forth with like the environmental club, which is pretty recently started, and then the building committee. So it's been a lot of work, but it's been fun. So some challenges we faced. I joined the coalition late, in February. So we are up in kind of like in a very short timeline. A lot of our work started in March. Scheduling, we're both very busy with classes and extracurriculars, so it was finding time was kind of difficult. And then also the focus on new school was like an original challenge, but I think like we embraced this challenge, and that's really helped us to make some really impactful decisions. Thank you. And if anyone has any questions for us, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Rylan and Kira. I'll let you guys ask questions in the chat or unmute. Yeah, Talia.
I think somebody else had their, maybe no, it wasn't a virtual hand. Maybe Jennifer had her hand raised first.
That's okay. You go ahead, Talia.
Okay, I actually, it's related to what Sarah put in the chat. So I'm the sustainability manager in Arlington, and I know Neil Duffy really well. He's great. And I'm curious about the question that you posed to us about the budget considerations and the net zero school. I'm curious if you've spoken to Neil about that and what his thoughts were on that, just because I know he thinks about that stuff a lot. And I know we in Arlington had a big override for our electric school recently. So like this is like 5 years ago. So just curious what Neil had to say. Is that what you think?
That was kind of more of a recent development, so we haven't spoken to Neil about that, but I do actually have a meeting upcoming with Neil, so I'll likely
Okay.
talk to him about that when I meet with him.
Yeah, I mean, like I could certainly opine on things in Arlington, but I think he probably will have the best sense of kind of the mood of things there and how that interacts with the net zero considerations. But I wonder, yeah, I mean, ultimately, like the budget could dictate what happens, right? So it could be worthwhile to have like a version or a backup of the resolution that has like, okay, well, if there's not enough money to do the like full net zero school, what could you do instead? Are there other ways to kind of innovate? But also there might be some ways to demonstrate that it's actually like cost effective and that there are going to be savings over time. And Neil might be able to support with that kind of analysis because it's not inevitable that these, that the life cycle costs of the all electric or net zero school are going to be more than, more than the alternative. So maybe we can help you out with some of that analysis.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've also we're getting some lead funding through the Massachusetts that's going to help us to cover the net zero And also the Green School Works, we're gonna try to use that in other areas of the district to kind of offset a lot of these costs. And then also with like our Salem's net zero by 2050, there's really no way they can go around, I don't think, making this a net zero building because essentially they'd have to tear it down before 2050 if they wanted to meet those goals again.
Right.
So hopefully that means that with a contract, they will 100% be guaranteed to make this net zero regardless of the way the budgeting goes.
Yeah, I think you have a strong case for all those things you mentioned. Yeah, that's great. So great work. It's awesome to see all the stuff you're doing. I know Allie from Arlington here is working hard on our resolution. So
Thank you
thanks.
very much.
Yes, Sarah Ross. And bye, Bobby. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Rylan, and thank you, Kira. This is great. I'm glad you guys are doing this work in Salem. It's really important. And I love Salem. It's so beautiful up there. I need to get up there. I'm way out in Western Mass, so I miss being over in Salem. Yeah, my question was just going to be about, your question about the budget pull and tug and the sustainability goals and not losing those. I wonder if, as you've been on the building committee, Rylan, and I don't know, Kira, if you've been involved in any of this, either on this side have the utility folks been to any of those meetings, or have the utility incentives been brought into the conversation? Because that's certainly money to lose. There are some utility programs that you can only get if you achieve certain metrics in terms of sustainability. And so you could say, hey, like if we take these things out, we're actually going to lose money from the budget, right? Because Eversource or National Grid, whoever your utility is, will give us this amount if we reach this level of sustainability, but we'll lose, X million dollars if we don't do that. So I wonder if you can frame it that way to help kind of urge that they continue to center the sustainability work, even in the context of budget pressures.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, I definitely think with the lead funding, it's going to incentivize sort of the spending on the green schools and like the net zero. But also we were talking about in the building committee about how we're spending over 100,000 each year on the heating of our building, and I feel like it might be even in like the upper 100,000s. I don't have an exact number, but um they've decided that like any gains now are gonna outweigh the overall cost that's gonna take us over the next 50 or so years, or probably longer, that this school is gonna last, that it's actually gonna cost us more to keep it the way it is, especially with inefficient heating. Because if we want to even make the heating like actually efficient and working without making it net zero, it would cost even more money. So I think there's a pretty solid case there.
Thank you again, Rylan and Kira. If folks have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. And we also do have a list of our youth cohort contact emails if you want to reach out. I do want to give our lovely student in Springfield just a few minutes to share some of the work that he's been doing. Group mates weren't able to join, but Brian is here. Brian, if you want to reintroduce yourself, and I will share my screen.
Go, Brian.
Woo.
My name is Brian, and I will try to use these next 6 minutes very fast. Okay, so, oh, am I like in the way of this presenting? Whoops.
No, you're
So as you can see here, uh, so as much as I would love to catch you up, I'm not. So right now we're still meeting with some people because we're trying to like get some things passed through. We're looking for adult allies to be resources and what we are hoping to accomplish, which is in the form if you would like. However, Adichie, if you would possibly click the link to our petition, which has a ton of information, and I will paste it into the chat for you guys to look at. Yes, amazing. So right now we're looking for some signatures because we're trying to we're trying to bring up some talks to our district regarding enforcing a sustainability plan because we don't have that. And there is not, additionally, there's also no sustainability position in our district or a task force dedicated to enforcing sustainability policies in our Springfield Public Schools district. This is mainly being led through Climate Legacy Group, SPS Climate Legacy Group. It's a group of student activists and adult allies working to bring climate policy and climate resilience to Springfield Public Schools. And that group has been started at my school, the Springfield Renaissance School, and we are looking to expand and involve students from other schools across SPS. And so even just one of your guys' signatures would make my day. Also, a link near the end to fill out a Google form to reach out to us in case you are interested in following up or wanting to provide any questions or resources. That'd be great. That'd be amazing. And I'm so sorry for this horrible presentation that I'm putting you all through.
No, it's wonderful. We're glad that you're here and thank you for representing the group. I know a few folks couldn't make it and I think it's fantastic that you were able to step up. Thank you. And with that, it is 57. I want to bring us back to the main group if that is okay with everyone. Wow. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you guys. And that was great, Brian. Thank you.
Now me trying to.
I think we can just leave
There
the
we go.
room.
I got it. All right. Close
Brian,
all rooms. It's about to happen.
Can you clarify, Brian, that
Thank you.
it's okay for non-Springfield residents to sign that? Or is it really meant for, it is, okay, great. So we can get a thumbs up. All right.
Oh, you know what? It's gonna, yeah, there we go. So Boston and Revere groups. My apologies. All right, Zuzu, do you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, I'm going to take it away. Thank you all for joining this amazing meeting. I hope you guys had a great time hearing from our youth cohort members and hearing about the work that they're doing. We'll send out a little bit of follow-up information as well as their contact information, which you can also find in this district tracker list, which I will copy into the chat. This is just to sort of keep up with all the contacts from the coalition, including youth cohort members. So if you haven't already, you can add your name and email to this list. Yeah, and we will also be having a network meeting in June. The date is to be announced. We have an exciting announcement for then, and we will see you all then. And please do sign Springfield's petition.
Yeah, I just was gonna, for the group that wasn't in that breakout group, Brian, who's one of our students from Springfield, has asked us to read and consider signing the petition to urge Springfield Public Schools to take action on climate change. So I dropped that link in the chat as well.
Thank you all for joining. Make sure to check
Thank you so much for everyone's time.
Bye.
Thank you.
Sorry, excuse me. My district isn't on the tracker.
Is this Grim?
Yes.
Awesome. Is this, remind me, is this Lawrence?
Yeah, this is Lawrence.
And Lawrence isn't on the tracker. Uh-oh, we got to fix that. So maybe Zuzu, can you stay on with Grim to just try to fix that? Awesome. And then Grim, I think if you are looking for other contacts up in the North Shore area, don't know about Lawrence, but we do have a youth climate leadership program up there. And if you are looking for connections, I could make that connection for you. But if you already have connection, I'm just not sure where you're entering the process. So please feel free to let us know.
I would love connections. Yes, thank you.
I also, Grim, I'll drop my email in the chat if you want to shoot me an email. I'm happy to set up like a half hour to kind of onboard you and orient you a little bit more to the coalition, and we can kind of talk through a little bit more what it might look like to get something going in Lawrence, if that would be helpful.
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right, that's the best way. I'm going to let Sarah take it.
Because yes, I know sometimes all it takes is a half hour conversation. So shoot me an email and we'll find a time.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Thanks. And I'm just going to stay here in case anyone else has a question. But if whoever has to go is fine.
Graham, you should be now added onto the district tracker list. I just put a column for a row for Lawrence Public Schools. So if you want
Okay.
to just put your email and your school, there you go.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I got
Susan, you could
this.
stop the recording, and then if folks still have questions, we could do that.